Today, we walk through Tanium's new Automate module featuring orchestration across the platform. Welcome back to Tanium Tech Talks. I'm your host, Ashley McGlone. People have been clamoring to see the new Automate module ever since it was announced on stage at Converge last year. And after months of development and customer private preview feedback, thank you, it's finally here. And you've come to expect insider experts on topics like this, and today's show is no different. Our guest has been part of the Automate story from the beginning, and I got to meet him personally recently at a Tanium user group. Help me welcome Stephen to the show. So Stephen, please introduce yourself for our audience.
Thanks for having me here, Ashley. So my name is Stephen Yang. I'm a director of product management here at Tanium. I've been with Tanium a little bit more than 3 years now, and I lead our platform experiences function, which is a really exciting function that focuses on all of the user-facing platform level experiences that we provide to our customers and partners, as well as leading our efforts with Automate.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Stephen. So first off, what is Automate for somebody who hasn't heard of that yet?
Yeah, so Automate's a really exciting feature that we've developed in our platform. And what it really is, it's a no-code, no and low-code workflow builder that allows users to piece together and automate all these different functionalities that we provide in the platform across patching, across vulnerability assessments, across compliance management. And what we really allow users to do is take these very complex, repetitive manual tasks and build them into these different playbooks or task sequences so that they can run them automatically on a schedule, but of course with human in the loop control. So what we're really allowing you to do is take these very repetitive and monotonous processes and build better automation, better insights to how you can use the platform and kind of take away all these different tasks that drain your time and allow you to focus on more strategic projects, allow you to dedicate more resources to a lot of more business impacting things that we can allow you to do here.
So I'm going to ask a really obvious question. Because on this show, we always talk about you asked for it, so we built it. I'm guessing somewhere a customer probably asked for this capability. Why did we build this?
A lot of our customers, they have limited resources, limited time, and their workloads are increasingly more complex, more time consuming, and just more to manage. And so what we've discovered as we've talked to our customers is that they want to find ways to simplify, to automate all of their repetitive tasks. And so what we've done here with Automates is really allowing them to take that real-time platform, that real-time actionability that we deliver with Tanium, and allow them to build that through more of these playbooks and more of these task sequences, where things that they have to spend their weekends or nights on, they can then create these playbooks to automate them, to schedule them. It's really been a really interesting process as we talk to our customers. Some of our use cases like cluster patching, where they have 20 plus different steps, and they have to do that manually today. And so they're running a single action prior to patching. Maybe that's stopping services, putting servers into maintenance mode, deploying the patch, restarting the service, things that take a lot of different steps, a lot of different folks involved, and a lot of time invested. They can then build these playbooks. And so these are the types of things that we really want to deliver more value and cost savings to our customers, both from a time and resource perspective.
I know you and the team have spent a lot of time with customers in the preview process. I'm really curious to hear what kind of feedback have customers given us once they've gotten to see some of the early versions of this.
As you mentioned, we've had nearly 40 plus customers and partners in our private preview. And the predominant feedback that I hear from these private preview customers is that they really love how you can build in the logical controls of how these actions sequence together, right? Because what we're doing with Automate is we're building on top of the platform all the different capabilities that we provide out of the box. But it's really hard to kind of bring it all together, right? So and that's really where Automate shines is after I deliver an action, I can then verify, validate that through my centers through what we call a verify condition step before I take that next action. And so being able to see the progression of a step-by-step flow, being able to validate that after every step, and see how many endpoints are successful, how many endpoints are failed or pending, as you see this step-by-step progression is super valuable for our customers, not only in the delivery of the action, but also reporting, right? So being able to go and triage issues as they come up, or see that these playbooks are running successfully on a periodic sequence of time is really helpful to allow them to figure out what types of actions and what types of sequence they can build and kind of build on top of that as well here.
You know, it's fascinating to see how far we've come since I've been here. You think about the linear chain, the architecture, and then you build on top of that the platform itself, the ability to ask questions. Then we build modules on top of that. And now across all the modules, we're building this automation. We've got the reporting there across all the modules. Now we've got this automation layer across all the modules. And when you see that kind of stacked up like that in the platform structure, it's really, it just unlocks so much potential that people have asked for years. And we as employees have wanted to see for years too. It's like, let's make all this stuff work together like Voltron, right? Let's bring all the pieces together and see what we can do. So this is going to be fun. I'm ready for a demo. Why don't you show us what this looks like?
Let's jump into Automate. So one of the first things I'll point out here is Automate is in this top level navigation. And the reason I point that out is because it's really essential and critical to how we're thinking about the evolution of the platform, becoming more autonomous, becoming more insightful, and driving recommendations and automation. So jumping into here, I can see all the different playbooks that we have available in this environment. I can see the number of playbooks. I can see how many playbooks are currently run, how many playbooks are disabled or have errors. But I'll jump into this specific one here, Windows SQL cluster patching. And so this has been a use case that we hear from our customers a lot here, which is they have a number of different clusters with servers in those clusters, and they need to patch those servers in active form so that they have high availability, right? So in order to apply these patches, they need to do it in a particular sequence in order, right? So what we're doing here in this playbook is allowing you to segment those actions, those sequences in a specific order and with verification and action so that you can see the progress from step to step and make sure that everything is reaching a desired state for your cluster patching use case. So in this particular example, in this first step, what we're doing is we can actually first verify that the endpoint is in the cluster. We can follow that up with actions like end user notification, verifying the SQL clustering details here as well before we take on these other action steps. And then apply things like creating database snapshots. So these are leveraging our platform package abilities to take these database snapshots, putting the systems into maintenance mode, rebooting the host here, and then actually waiting a couple of minutes for that system to come back online before placing the host in the cluster mode, verifying the cluster health, and continuing down this patch sequence. So as you can see here, this is a large number of steps for this SQL cluster patching example. And what we've done is we've broken it down into very discrete steps so that you can easily plug and play different types of verifications, different types of action steps that may be best suited for the needs of your environment. So this is really where the flexibility and customizability of Automate Playbooks come into here, is that I can take all these different capabilities that the Tanium platform provides out of the box and bring them into these different Automate Playbooks into these task sequences.
All right, so the first question from the administrator peanut gallery here is going to be, I've got, say, 5 members, 6 members in a cluster. Do I loop through those, or do I have to repeat the steps for each member of the cluster?
In this current implementation, you can actually, you'd have to repeat the steps. However, you can easily clone the steps in the playbook. So you don't have to build it from scratch. You can just take one step, clone it, and add it to your playbook sequence and modify it correspondingly to whatever endpoints that you want to target, whatever action that you want to deliver.
That makes sense. So now, now the next thing I'm wondering is, okay, what kinds of building blocks can I put into this playbook? Can you walk us through kind of building one to kind of see what that would look like, what kind of pieces we would add in there?
within the playbooks, I have three primary categories of action steps. So I have platform actions, solution actions, and controls. So platform actions leverage capabilities you get with the platform today, being able to deliver platform package actions. So you can see here we have things like reboot Windows machine, adding custom tags, quarantine Windows and Linux endpoints, but they're all really derivations of this deploy action step. And so what this deploy action step allows me to do is select any arbitrary package that's available in the environment. So this will contains both Tanium provided out of the box packages, as well as any custom packages that you may have created yourself here. And so you can see within this selection, a ton of different capabilities and options you have available for this package, right? So as a very basic example, I will add a custom tag here, and you can see I can add this to a step. I can select my targeting, right? So I can select both computer group-based targeting, whether that's all computers or Windows or any computer group that you may have created yourself. I can also do question criteria-based targeting, right? So if I want to do computer name contains when, I can see a preview of all these endpoints that are online right now that would satisfy my targeting criteria if I were to run this playbook right now. And then I can define a completion criteria, right? So I have the options of all, any, or percent. So if I select all, I'd have the ability to say 100% of the endpoints that I targeted must successfully execute before I move on to the next step. Or if I select any or percentage, this just gives me the flexibility to define different thresholds, right? So if I want to say 90% of the endpoints were successful and I'll move on to the next step, I can do that here. Or if I select any, that just means one or more of my endpoints were successful and I'll move on to the next step in my playbook sequence.
Boy, that's some nice flexibility. I really like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the theme of flexibility, right, we have all these other different steps. So solution actions, right? So being able to deploy a patch directly within an Automate playbook. Um, we've pulled in that same patch deployment experience directly within Automate. So I can select the platform I want to deploy the patch to. I can select it by patch list or add it manually here as well. And then I have the same options for targeting computer group or question criteria based targeting. It's going to be a one-time deployment in the context of a playbook. I can just add it here within the sequence here. So a lot of our customers have talked about pre and post patch actions. And so this is how you can start to deliver some of those use cases as we think about different ways or different scenarios where you want to stop services and do things like that before patching, and then after the patch reboot the device and restart the service.
I can imagine like maybe a step where you would verify application functionality, like some whatever application is being hosted on that box, verify that it's functioning, some API calls or something, and then perhaps trigger an email to the application testing group that needs to validate that that patch was successful. Perhaps just lots of possibilities here.
Exactly. And that's really what we're striving here with Automate. It's the endless number of possibilities that you can do within Tanium and all built on top of the real-time data. And that's really what makes this unique and really what makes this solution, this automation orchestration solution unique is that all the different decision points and actions and validations are pulled from the real-time endpoint data that Tanium can uniquely gather, right? So this is really where we shine in being able to be accurate, be precise as we think about building these different automations.
What I also find interesting is that we're talking about a patching operations use case, but I saw earlier like quarantine, some other security oriented use cases as well. It sounds like this is because this is automating across the entire platform, it's really not security or ops or risk, it's kind of all those things.
Exactly, exactly. So it's really about right, when you think about the Tanium platform, we're not just IT operations or just security. It's about bringing those solutions together, bridging the gaps. And as we think about Tanium as a platform, Automate is really taking us that step further to being able to pull all these different actions together into these sequences so that you can, deliver these end-to-end use cases from start to finish without having to pass the baton on to another team in order to finish out your use case, right? It all comes together within these playbooks.
Now, I realize, and I know our viewers know this by now as well, this is 1.0, Right. And so if we scroll through this list, when we get to like the solutions areas, there's really just, it looks like patch there for now. Obviously, you can write any kind of standard built-in platform action you want with your own scripts. But as far as the modules we're automating, it looks like patch is here out of the box. What else do we get out of the box, and then what's kind of the plan for what else you want? Obviously, we want to get all the modules in scope here. So what's kind of the what's today and what's coming?
Yeah, today, what we've done with this patch step is just really make it easier for you to use directly, right? But that doesn't mean we're just limited to patch actions within Automate. With that deploy action step, you can, run compliance scans, you can quarantine endpoints, as you mentioned, and really any type of action, whether that's if it's package based, you can use that with that deploy action step.
So for our audience who's watching, okay, this makes sense now. So even though you don't have the comply module called out here, there are platform actions that the comply module uses, and you just call the action here. Got it. So that's like a wild card that gets us into those other modules that have actions built in.
Exactly. Exactly.
Fantastic.
And so what we're doing to do here with these solution actions is integrate all our different solution actions over time, whether that's in from deploy, whether that's from engage, comply, enforce, threat response, right? So all our different capabilities that we deliver in our solutions will essentially become really easy building blocks. I like to call them Lego blocks here that you can plug and play into these playbooks over time. So look out for more of these solution actions to be added over time.
Let's look at the user confirmation here. I'm curious to see where we are with that.
Yeah, so this user confirmation is allowing actually the Tanium admin operator user to confirm the step. So this is really in scenarios where you have a playbook sequence and a number of actions in that playbook, where after the first couple of actions, you may want the admin operator to ensure that the playbook has reached a desired state before you move on to the next step in your playbook flow. And so this is really about that human in the loop control, human in the loop management of your automations within here.
So I've got my run book, my playbook all crafted up here, and I'm ready to unleash it on my fellow IT coworkers as test subjects. How do I actually, because we're not going to test in production, right, folks? I mean, you may have one cloud instance, but you've got those computer groups for your test machines. We're not going to test on everybody, right? So how do I actually trigger one of these to run or schedule one of these to run?
Yeah, let me actually jump back over to one of our other use cases. So I'll just take a very basic example of tagging my Windows endpoints. So I have two options here. I can click start, and if I click start, this will run this playbook immediately ad hoc, right? My other option here is to schedule it. So I have different options to schedule the playbook on certain frequencies, whether it's one run per day every day, multiple runs per day every day. You have all these different types of options here for you to schedule this so it happens on a recurring basis. I can also define it by cron expression as well. So if I want to be more granular and more precise in my scheduling, I can do that in this advanced mode.
And I've got a question next. I know kind of folks watching this show might have some DevOps experience, and in that realm, there's this term called idempotency. So you're going to tag an endpoint, but if a tag's already there, are we going to tag it again? I'm guessing that would be up to you to write into the logic for your targeting so that you're only targeting machines that are applicable and not reapplying the same config, let's say.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And again, what I'll focus here is Automate is built on top of the platform. So the expected behavior that you have today with how you deploy actions is also respected within Automate. But that's a great question, right? When you have different actions that might be doing similar actions at the same time on the endpoints and the same target endpoints, you can build that in and kind of manage that through those verification steps so that you can avoid those perhaps conflicting actions on the endpoint.
There's so much more we could talk about. There's, I know we've got some release notes. We'll put those in the description below here, and some announcements, some documentation, all kinds of good reading follow up material for you. But for now, Stephen, is there anything else we you want to hit before we wrap up here?
No, I just like to say that, we really appreciate our customers and partners that have been in our private preview that have really driven our prioritization of different features and really helped us uh, make sure we deliver a good product for our customers. And we continue to do that. And so, we are going to be actually launching a community forum and community site that will allow our customers and partners to go and share different ideas for different automations that you found helpful that might be helpful to the Tanium community here as well. And so as we really engage our Tanium community here, we're really trying to deliver more proactive playbooks. And so one of the things to watch out for here is our Tanium managed playbooks. This is a capability that'll be coming soon here, where we will provide templated out of the box Tanium curated playbooks for you to use directly. And of course, you can modify them and tune them to your environmental needs. But we would definitely want to provide a growing library of different use cases that we found helpful that our customers and partners have shared with us as well.
That's exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's something that people have been asking for a long time. So, a couple wrap up questions here. How do I get it? Cloud versus on prem. And then once I get it, is there anything I need to do to set it up or configure it out of the box?
Yeah, so Tanium Automate is currently available to all of our cloud customers, both our commercial as well as government cloud customers. And it will be available to our on-prem customers soon in our next semi-annual release bundle. In terms of configuring, there's no special configurations that you need for Automate. And again, it's built on top of the platform. Everything that you have pre-configured and set up already in Tanium will be respected and used within Automate here.
Fantastic. Well, Stephen, thank you for this tour of Automate and even giving us some teasers on what's coming next. And folks, you know you're not going to get through an episode of this show without mentioning Converge. We have hands-on labs coming up at Converge, and not just one. I went to the converge.tanium.com and I looked at the on-site lab list this year, and there's at least 4 hands-on labs where you can get hands-on training and try things in a safe environment with this new capability. And as usual, we like to announce things at Converge. No promises here, but I bet there's going to be some things announced around this coming up at Converge. So don't miss it, even if you can only attend virtually. But we'd love to see you in person in Orlando this coming November. So as always, in the show notes below, there are a number of links. There's a documentation. There's our Tanium Resource Center, help.tanium.com. There's a link there to the launch article, which gives you this overview story if you want to share that with your peers and get them excited about this automation capability now coming soon across all the modules, right? So we've got some really good use cases here. And I really appreciated that tip from Stephen around just the deploy and action, because if you think about it, the Tanium modules right on top of the platform where the sensors and packages live, and there are packages there that you can automate across multiple modules. So dig in and find out about what you can use this for in your environment, and then go over to our community, the Tanium Resource Center, help.tanium.com. Go out there and post some examples of and ask questions and start the dialogue about what you're discovering and automating with Tanium Automate. So, folks, this is exciting. And until next time, go Tanium.